We are continuing along with our new series here as our 1 through 50 of our top fantasy football players. This is going to be 31 through 40. And the first guy we're talking about here today at number 31 would be DJ Moore. Now, he's got it a little bit later, right? He's a very talented wide receiver, but there's a lot of reasons of why I have him placed where I do. First reason, right? Quarterback, Caleb Williams. It's a rookie. We don't know how he's going to do. Second reason, it's kind of a two-part here. Keenan Allen, right? We got Romo Dunze, the rookie wide receiver coming out of Washington. We just don't know who is going to be the main benefactor in this offense. DJ Moore, he's used to just being the man, the go-to guy. That's why you see him do so well and the numbers that he's able to put up. But now he's got a nice veteran in there in Keenan Allen, a nice highly drafted rookie in Romo Dunze. Where does DJ Moore really fit in? And is Caleb Williams able to support multiple wide receivers for fantasy football? Let's just see what he was able to do last season. We see that DJ Moore ended up with 96 receptions for 1,364 yards and 8 touchdowns on top of that. I don't think he's getting 1,300 yards again this season. I think he's going to struggle to get to that 1,000 yard mark as long as they're trying to get other people involved. Let's not even forget that they got DeAndre Swift in free agency as well. And they also have Cole Kmet, a pretty decent tight end as well. There's so many weapons in this offense. It's hard to say, hey, look, DJ Moore is going to be able to get up, 13 plus 100 yards, and all these touchdowns. It's just really hard to see. That's why he had to drop for me at 31. Move right along here at number 32. We're going to talk about Nico Collins, and it's kind of a similar role. Yeah, Nico just got a nice big extension deal on him himself, but they brought in Stephon Diggs. Now you got Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell all around. Is CJ Stroud able to, give three wide receivers a legit type of fantasy football outcome? We don't know. We have to wait and see. I know they also got Joe Mixon over here at the running back position as well. A lot of new pieces here, a lot of things in the office. So Nico Collins and DJ Moore is kind of similar to me as far as knowing that they're gonna have to take probably a small step back just because of all the pieces that they added in the offseason. Again, Nico Collins, I'm super high on Nico Collins. I think he's very talented. There's just a lot of mouths to feed down with the Texans. Let's look at what Nico was able to do last season. Nico Collins ended up with 80 receptions, 1,297 yards, and 8 touchdowns on top of that. Like I said, Nico Collins, he could produce, but it's all going to be up to CJ Stroud. Is he going to be able to deliver the football to a plethora of options and make them all fantasy viable? I just think you have to take a step back, not only on DJ Moore, but also on Nico Collins, and temper your expectations. Don't expect them to go out there and get you, your 12 to 1,300 yards, 8 plus touchdowns. Just hold on. We have to wait and see. So don't go out there and take Nico Collins or DJ Moore super high, right? Let's go over to the next guy at number 33. We're talking about DK Metcalf. This is a guy that I really do like. He's a big bodied type of wide receiver, kind of a physical, imposing on these cornerbacks, and makes some nice plays. The dude can hit the home run even at his size. I like what he can bring to the table. I think Geno Smith is really starting to lock on to DK Metcalf, but is this the year that Jackson Smith-Njigba starts to take over towards that number one type of role from Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf? We have to wait and see. Let's just look at what DK Metcalf was able to do last season. We see that Metcalf ended up with 66 receptions for 1,114 yards and 8 touchdowns himself. So again, I still think he'll get 8 plus touchdowns. I think he's there. He's a dominant force, definitely in the red zone. Geno Smith has built already a nice rapport with DK Metcalf. I just don't know about the targets, right? Is JSN going to be saying, hey, I need more targets in this offense? Because he's a really good wide receiver too to have as a wide receiver 3. Tyler Lockett, I know, is he going to take some more deep ball throws away from DK Metcalf as well? There's a lot of offensive firepower in the Seahawks offense. So DK Metcalf, again, I do like him as a wide receiver. I'm very high, and that's why I have him here at number 33. So we're going over here now to 34. We're talking about the running back position, Isaiah Pacheco, who really came on last season. We started by the end of the season. They were giving the ball to Pacheco even more, taking the hands out of Patrick Mahomes and just handing the ball off. We're talking about, 18, 20 carries in a single game. Isaiah Pacheco can give you that. And when you watch this guy run the football, he runs like he's about to just truck somebody. The motor that this guy has and the intensity that he runs with is absolutely impeccable. Let's look at what he was able to do last season. Isaiah Pacheco ended up with 935 rushing yards alongside 7 touchdowns, and then to accompany that, 244 receiving yards with 2 receiving touchdowns. And I think that in 2024, we're going to start to see Isaiah Pacheco probably blossom a little bit more, right? He's going to start expanding his game and giving you even more. I think Isaiah Pacheco could be a phenomenal pick here, especially if you're in a dynasty startup. I think he could be a nice young option for you as well. But even in redraft, I think he's going to be going a lower ADP. People aren't extremely high on him, but I have him here at number 34 because I think Isaiah Pacheco can give you some valuable weeks, week in and week out. Let's go over to the next guy here at number 35. We're talking about Mark Andrews, the tight end for the Ravens. If he didn't have a slow start to the season just due to injury, I think that Mark Andrews, he could have been the number 1 tight end in football, and he would definitely be leapfrogging Sam Laporta as of right now as the number 1 go-to guy. Mark Andrews has a ton of talent. I like what he does, and Lamar Jackson just kind of hones in on this dude. It's like he's like the only person on the field, so I have to see how that plays out. Let's look at what Mark Andrews was able to do last season in a limited capacity. Mark Andrews ended up with 45 receptions for 544 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns, and like I said, it was kind of a limited capacity, right? They still have Zay Flowers there. They signed they drafted the wide receiver out of UNC, Devontae Walker. So they got a couple pieces there as well. Isaiah likely showed us what he could do as the number 2 tight end when he was able to step into that role. But I still think Mark Andrews is going to be locked in on targets. He's going to be the man. I love Mark Andrews, and yes, I have him ahead of the next guy that we have at 36, and that's going to be Travis Kelce. We started seeing him take a step back, right? He wasn't the dominant week in, week out type of tight end that we're used to seeing. He did sign a 2-year extension, right? So he got another deal. So that means the Chiefs are saying, we don't think he lost a step, and I think he can help us get one more championship before he has to retire. His brother, Jason Kelce, with the Eagles, he ended up retiring. Travis is still staying in the game. He can have some weeks. So I think long gone are the days that week in and week out, he's giving you tight end 1 type of numbers, that he's going to be far and few in between of where he's scoring and where everybody else is scoring, right? So I think the gap has definitely closed down a little bit. He's still a good tight end. That's why he's still high on my rankings, but he's just not going to give you what he once did. Let's look at what he did last season. Travis Kelce ended up with 93 receptions for 984 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. Again, I think Travis Kelce's still a elite tight end. He's still an upper echelon tight end. He's just not what he was before, where there was a massive gap between Travis Kelce and everybody else. You used to be able to get Travis Kelce at the end of the 1st round, early 2nd round. Now you probably can wait till about the 3rd round, maybe 4th round before you even grab Travis Kelce. And I'm okay with that. That's all good. Let's go over to the next guy here at number 37. We're talking about Kenneth Walker from the Seahawks, right? Everybody thought Zach Charbonnet was going to take over all the role from Kenneth Walker. He's dead. He's dead. Nope. They said Kenneth Walker is our running back. He will be running the football, and Zach Charbonnet will just complement him. So we saw a very nice season from Kenneth Walker last season. I think that he's going to be doing even better, maybe even approaching that 1,000 yards. If he doesn't get injured last season, he would have easily eclipsed the 1,000 yards. Let's look at what he did last season. Kenneth Walker ended up with 905 rushing yards with 8 touchdowns, alongside 259 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown on top of that. Again, Kenneth Walker could be a nice cornerstone piece. If you definitely go maybe a 0 RB build early on, maybe you can grab Kenneth Walker as your RB1 later on down the line into the draft, and I think you'll be completely fine with that, whether you're playing best ball or redraft league. I think Kenneth Walker could be fine as your anchor running back. So let's go over to the next guy here. We're talking about at number 38. We're going over with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, again, some even think that he might be the best quarterback, right? I don't have him as the best quarterback. I think that his weapons overall needs to just improve. Yes, they got Marquise Brown, but Rashee Rice, does he serve a suspension as well? They ended up getting Xavier Worthy, the rookie out of Texas, to come in here as a nice little speedster compliment as well. He just wasn't what he was when he had the Tyreek Hills going and then Travis Kelce in his prime. He's not putting up those type of numbers anymore, getting towards, those 5,000 yards passing and stuff. That's not the Patrick Mahomes we know anymore, and they're starting to give the ball to Isaiah Pacheco even more. So that's going to take a little bit more pressure off of Patrick Mahomes and let them get ready for the playoffs. But again, in fantasy football, we're not worried about the NFL playoffs. We're worried about the fantasy football playoffs, and that happens in the season. Unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes, they're kind of holding him and Travis Kelce hostage until the NFL playoffs, which really doesn't help us. But let's just see what Patrick Mahomes did last season. We see that Mahomes ended up with 4,183 passing yards with 27 touchdowns, alongside just 389 rushing yards on top of that. So Patrick Mahomes still able to give you some elite production in certain weeks. He's not, He's not the top echelon elite tier floor guy because he's rushing for all these yards, but he's still giving you a good enough amount of yards to be fantasy relevant for your team. So again, not hating on Patrick Mahomes. He's just not what we're used to seeing. So let's move right along here. At number 39, we're talking about Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver for Miami. Yeah, they got a little bit more competition, Odell Beckham Jr., but I'm not really too worried about that. And then if, God forbid, Tyreek Hill does go down to injury, we see Jalen Waddle is going to be able to step up and be that number one alpha dog type of wide receiver. The problem that I have with Waddle is that Tyreek Hill is on the field. You know, if you got Tyreek Hill on the field, he could take a 70-yard touchdown on, you know, on the second play of the series. Then there's not enough series or enough snaps there to give Jalen Waddle a big game, right? He does have his spike weeks, but it's not consistent enough for me because they score so fast. Miami can strike from the distance, whether it's A-Chain or whether it's Mostert, or, you know, whether it's Tyreek Hill, it doesn't matter. There's just not enough snaps on the field to give Jalen Waddle enough volume to be fantasy. I don't want to say fantasy relevant because he is very fantasy relevant, very good wide receiver, but consistency, right? It's not there, not what I want to see. That's why I've got him all the way down here at 30. Now let's just see what Jalen Waddle was able to do last season. Waddle ended up with 72 receptions for 1,014 yards and 4 touchdowns. And that's exactly what I was talking about, right? Only 70 receptions. Jalen Waddle's a guy that needs to get like 95 to 100 receptions in any given year, and that is what's going to make his numbers boom. He just barely eclipsed over 1,000 yards receiving just because he didn't have enough receptions, enough volume to get him as fantasy relevant like you want to see. So the last guy we're going to talk about on this list at number 40, we're talking about the newly acquired Houston Texans, Stefon Diggs. Now, Stefon Diggs, a lot of people are like, he's going over there with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Where does he really fit in? A lot of people have a bad taste in his mouth how he ended over there with the Buffalo Bills, and he wasn't what he used to be. That's okay. I think he's going to revitalize a little bit of his career and be the bona fide number one wide receiver on this team. I think Nico Collins and Stefon Diggs are both going to prove to you they can both be fantasy viable. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Stefon Diggs ends up going over Nico Collins, even though in my rankings as of right now today, I have Nico Collins as a better wide receiver than Stefon Diggs. But I wouldn't be surprised that prior to the season, I see enough in training camp that Stefon Diggs is the number one alpha dog, and I will end up putting Stefon Diggs over Nico Collins when it's all said and done. Let's look at what he did last season. So Stefon Diggs ended up with 107 receptions, for 1,183 yards and 8 touchdowns. Now that is a bad season according to Stefon Diggs' numbers of what we're used to seeing, right? So we can see better. We can see better. I don't know what happened between him and the Buffalo Bills. There was a lot of anger issues going. It was an attitude issue. I don't know. A change of scenery over there with the Texans could be what the doctor ordered for Stefon Diggs. And I think CJ Stroud is a good enough quarterback to make sure multiple fantasy options are viable in this offense. So guys, that's for 31 through 40 right here. We got a whole series 1 through 50. We're pumping out multiple videos each and every week throughout the entire offseason to get you ready for your fantasy football drafts. Guys, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. I would really appreciate that. Make sure you hit a thumbs up and leave a comment down below in this category. Do I have anybody too high? Do I have anybody too low? Please let me know in the comments. I can't wait to go back and forth with you guys. And ultimately, I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.